Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. And as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, and it's great to have you guys here. On this Thursday, we have a lot to talk about on the show, as we normally do. But before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys to become part of the show, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link, streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show. It makes the show more interactive. And then, and of course, you know, it's a great way, like I said, it's a great way to be interactive. And, it really makes the show more engaging, between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. So, again, the following link is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it's on the ticker on the bottom of this show segment here on the screen. So, with that, we got a lot to talk about on the show today. So starting off the show, we'll go through the quarterback news around the NFL because there's so much with guys getting benched, guys coming back from injury, trades, of course. So we'll get into all that. Then we're going to talk about Tyreek Hill facing his former team, as that's the title of this show. So he'll be going up against the Chiefs for the first time since he was traded to the Dolphins. Then we will talk about the Cowboys-Eagles game and how it's a statement game for the Cowboys if they want to really be taken seriously by myself and a lot of other people as well, as they travel to Philly for the game on Sunday, which is a huge game. One of the few games that is there's a few games that are huge on Sunday, and we're going to talk about two of the three today at least. And then we will preview tonight's game between the Tennessee Titans and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's the rundown for today's show. So let's get right into the first topic, which is talking about a lot of the quarterback news, because there's a lot of it. Injuries, trades, benchings. There's so much going on with the quarterback position right now. So I'm going to be honest, I don't know where to start. But I guess we'll get into the two situations that have to deal with quarterbacks being benched. So with the Atlanta Falcons, we'll start off with them. They're tied for the division lead in the South. We know this. The NFC South is a division that nobody seems to want to take. And right now the Falcons are tied at 4-4 with the Saints. But they've kind of been having issues at that position. Desmond Ridder really has not played well this year. He's been turning the ball over a lot. And the Falcons do have Taylor Heineke as their backup quarterback. So he actually did end up playing on Sunday. Desmond Ridder left the game. They were, evaluating him for a concussion, and he was cleared to play, but they didn't go back to him. They stuck with Heineke instead, and he ended up finishing the game. And the Falcons ended up losing that game 28-23 against Will Levis, his NFL debut, through 4 touchdown passes. So the Falcons dropped to 4-4 on the season, but they're still tied for the division lead. The Saints won, so those two teams at the moment are tied for first place in the South. But yeah, it's the quarterback position is a weakness for the Falcons, and they got a good roster. They got good playmakers on offense. Their defense is pretty good with some of the acquisitions they've made also in the offseason. They brought over Jesse Bates, the safety from the Bengals, to improve the secondary with the defense. So the roster is good for the Falcons. It's just the quarterback position is what's holding them back. And Desmond Ridder this year so far, 1,700 yards passing, 6 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. And he fumbled 3 times against the Bucs a couple of weeks ago. So it's really been kind of a rough go for him. And, they're going to roll with Taylor Heineke, who finished off the game. He went 12-21, 175 yards and a touchdown. And they'll be going up against the Vikings on Sunday, who are going to have their rookie quarterback going for the first time. Obviously, because with Kirk Cousins, missing the rest of the season. And they also just acquired Joshua Dobbs. And And I don't know if he's going to play. It doesn't seem like it at the moment. So it's going to be Jaron Hall, who came in relief for Cousins, and he went 3 of 4 for 23 yards. And I'm pretty sure, I think he either fumbled or he threw a pick. I think he might have fumbled. But there was a turnover, in their own territory late in the game. But the Vikings were fortunate because they were up by a couple of scores. That and the Packers, just their offense can't really do much lately, so it really didn't matter. But so you're gonna have Heineke starting against most likely Jaron Hall, but Joshua Dobbs, and I talked about this yesterday. So he gets traded over from the Cardinals, and listen, I think he adds a new dimension to the Vikings offense now, because look at the weakness of the Vikings offense is their running game. They're still trying to get Cam Akers going. Alexander Mattison has struggled this year. But Joshua Dobbs, he could run the football when he has to. And that's something that Kirk Cousins, doesn't typically do. He's more of a traditional pocket passer, which that's an endangered species in the NFL, if you really think about it. So, him going in with the Vikings at 4-4, the Vikings, I think, could still get that 7th seed. And I think with Justin Jefferson coming back, that's only going to help him. So, and you still got Hawkinson. Jordan Addison's been having a good rookie season. KJ Osborne, I think, is a good number 3 for the Vikings. So, I think the Vikings, they could still hang around. Now, I don't really expect them to do much, but, at least for this year, they're going to at least try to, make a run at the playoffs, because they definitely can at 4-4. And, you look at the other teams around them, they could definitely make that last wild card. Now, again, I don't really expect them to go far, but we'll see. So that's the news there with both of those teams, the Falcons and the Vikings. Falcons, I think it's the right move starting Heineke. Heineke gives them a better chance to win. So now we talk about the Cardinals. Interesting situation there. So they traded Joshua Dobbs, because I was like, before this trade happened, they talked about they're going to start their rookie Clayton Tune or Kyler Murray, and I'm sitting there going, well, what happened to Joshua Dobbs? And then later you find out, oh, he got traded, so that makes sense. So it's going to be either Clayton Tune or Kyler Murray on Sunday to go up against the Browns. I guess they're probably leaning towards maybe starting Clayton Tune. I think, listen, the Browns, they got a good defensive front. I think you kind of want to have Kyler Murray make his debut the following week when they play the Falcons at home. I guess, starting on the road against Cleveland, yeah, that's kind of a rough way to, get going in your first start this year. And especially coming off of an ACL tear. So Clayton Tune could be making his NFL debut on Sunday. Also, Tyson Bagent, it looks like he's going to start again this week. Justin Fields is still week to week with his injury, so he's going to be starting against the Saints, most likely Bagent. And on Sunday night against the Cardinals, against the Chargers, yeah, he didn't really, they really didn't do that much. So he is going to, but he will be making another start at least. And we'll see what happens with Fields moving forward, but that's what it looks like at the moment. Kenny Pickett, I know with the game tonight, obviously he left the game against the Jaguars, but he said he's for sure playing, so, we'll see what happens there. Let me check really quickly here. So, yeah, he doesn't have any injury designation. He is set to face the Titans tonight. He was listed as a full participant on Wednesday's practice report. Doesn't carry an injury designation. So, yeah, he's going to be getting the start tonight. And that's good for the Steelers because Mitchell Trubisky looked pretty bad against the Jags. And listen, the Steelers are still in it when it comes to the wild card. And, they have an outside chance to win the division, of course, but the wild card is more likely, and Kenny Pickett gives them a better chance to win than Mitchell Trubisky. And then when you look at what's going on with Will Levis, so Mike Vrabel was talking about, if Tannehill's healthy. It seemed like he was leaning more towards starting Tannehill if Tannehill was ready to go. But it looks like Will Levis will be definitely starting tonight against the Steelers. Ryan Tannehill was ruled out with his ankle injury, still dealing with that injury that he suffered when they played the Ravens a few weeks ago in London. So, yeah, it's going to be Will Levis, and he had an impressive debut, and let's see what he's made of tonight. Hostile environment in Pittsburgh, that defense. Let's see what he does. It should be an interesting game. We'll talk about it later in the show, of course. But, yeah, so you got that. Pickett's healthy. He's, well, not healthy, but he's cleared to play at least. He's probably still going to be dealing with that, rib injury, but he'll play. And you got Will Levis going tonight. Also, Matthew Stafford, he's still kind of day-to-day with his thumb injury. If he ends up not playing on Sunday, it's going to be Brett Rippon. So we'll see what happens. We'll know more, I guess, tomorrow. Also, the other thing, too, is Deshaun Watson, his status, because he's missed, he missed last week, obviously. So that's an interesting situation with what's going on there, because Deshaun Watson really has not played well for the Browns this year. And, yeah, they gave him all that money. So, they kind of got to ride it out at this point, but he really has not looked good. It says he looks good in practice. I'm looking on the Sleeper app. So, if he's ready to go, he's going to get the start against the Cardinals on Sunday, and we'll see if he can, get it going. I did forget to mention, though, because I said I was going to go over the quarterbacks that got benched. I did go over Desmond Ridder getting benched. Jimmy Garoppolo has been benched. AidanO'Connell is going to be the starter on Sunday and moving forward. And, I feel bad for Garoppolo just because I feel like he doesn't catch a break. And it's unfortunate, but he hasn't played well, leads the league in interceptions. Monday's game was hard to watch. It was a tough watch because you had Devontae Adams open a couple times and you just missed him. Or you threw it in double coverage and it got picked off. He looks like a different quarterback now that he's not with San Francisco, that's for sure. But AidanO'Connell's going to get the start, and he's going to be the starter moving forward. And it's just a mess with what's going on with the Raiders. You let go of Derek Carr. You replace him with Garoppolo. Garoppolo has not been good. And now you're starting AidanO'Connell. So, Raiders made a mistake there. And you could say whatever you want about Derek Carr, but Derek Carr, out of those three guys, is easily the best quarterback. And he should have stayed a Raider. And Raider fans would agree with that. I'm sure they would. But you got to look at ownership, and you got to say to yourself, yeah, they made a mistake, bringing in Josh McDaniels as the head coach. And it was funny because I was watching a video of a YouTuber that I like to watch, and, he goes over every single game, and he talked about all of the Raiders' losses last year. Like against the Cardinals, they blew a 20-0 lead. What else? They blew a lot of leads. But it was, so true, though. They blew it against the Jaguars last year. I'm trying to think. There were, all these games that it's you should have won. Oh, yeah, you barely, moved the ball against the Saints last year, who Derek Carr eventually went to. This year against the Steelers, kicking the field goal when they should have went for the touchdown to tie the game because they didn't even end up getting the ball back. I'm trying to think. What were the other bad losses? But there was that one where they got shut out against the Saints last year. That was bad. But yeah, it was a disaster. And then they let go of Derek Carr. They should have kept Rick Bisaccia. It's true. But that is something he definitely said. They should have kept Rick Bisaccia, and I agree 100%. They made the playoffs. After what happened with John Gruden and Henry Ruggs, you would have thought this team would have fell apart. But they all came together. They made the playoffs, and then you let him go. You bring in Josh McDaniels. And the team regressed. And they let go of guys that helped get them to the playoffs. So, yeah. So we'll see what the Raiders do. They got Antonio Pierce as the interim head coach. So he's going to finish out the year, and they go from there. So with that, we're going to take our first break of the show. And then when we come back, We're going to talk about this game on Sunday between the Dolphins and the Chiefs in Germany, as Tyreek Hill will be facing his former team for the very first time. So, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are now going to talk about Tyreek Hill facing his former team on Sunday. So obviously this game is going to be played in Germany. And to be honest, I kind of wish this game was being played in the States, just because of how big it is. But you know what? The other thing you got to look at too is we're finally giving, well, I shouldn't say finally, but we are giving, the fans overseas a game that they deserve, honestly, because you got two of the best teams in terms of record, record-wise. Well, some of the best teams in the NFL going at it. You got the Dolphins and their high-powered offense, and you got arguably the best quarterback in the game right now in Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champs. I mean, it should be a good game. It should be a really good game. And obviously, Tyreek Hill will be playing his former team for the first time since he was traded. So it'll be interesting to see what happens and, how he does against his team. I'm going to say he gets a touchdown in this game, but we'll see. Obviously, him going up against his team, and obviously Andy Reid and the Chiefs game planning for Tyreek Hill. It's going to be interesting what happens there. That's 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So, I obviously will be locked into that game. Got a lot of fantasy implications with that. Tyreek Hill, I have in a few leagues. Tua, I have in a league. Pacheco. There's a few guys that I'm going to be watching, making sure they do good for my team on Sunday. But with this game now, so you got four teams right now in the AFC that are 6-2. So you got these two teams, you got the Ravens, and you got the Jags. And I've talked about numerous times over the course of the last week or so. Well, a little less than that. Really this whole week. That, if one of these teams loses, and then you got, the Jags are on a bye this week. But, you could find yourself being like the third seed with a loss, because if you got the team that beat you, then you got the Ravens if they win, then all of a sudden, because everybody's tied right now for the best record in the AFC, and I know they were talking about it like what team, when you look at them, in terms of it being a bigger game, is it a bigger game for the Chiefs or the Dolphins? And I don't know why I had such a hard time trying to say that, but I mean, when you look at it, this is a bigger game for the Dolphins because they've been getting some criticism lately because of the fact that when you look at their record, 6-2, you're like, they're a good, very good team. But you look at the teams that they've beaten this year. They've beaten the Patriots twice. They've beaten the Giants, the Panthers. They blew out the Broncos. They scored 70 points against them. You look at the level of competition that they've beaten, and that's putting the team into question. Now, I still think this is a good team, and I think it's going to come down to the last game of the regular season when it comes to the division between them and the Bills. Right now, they're a game up on the Bills. But, teams that they've played on the road, they lost, 48-20 to the Bills, and then you lose 31-17 to the Eagles a couple weeks ago. Now, that game was tied at one point. And even when you go back to the Bills and the Dolphins, I mean, that game was, I think it was 14-14, and then after that, the Dolphins, couldn't keep up, and the Bills just kept scoring on them, and that was pretty much it. So, this is a big game for them. And you also got to look at it with the Chiefs. I mean, they're coming off of a bad loss. And, they definitely want to get back on the right track here. I think what's beneficial for the Dolphins is that this is going to be a neutral field, and this game's not being played in Arrowhead. Because if this game was being played in Arrowhead, you're definitely going to favor the Chiefs. Even though I kind of still favor them a little bit. But we'll save that for the pick segment tomorrow. But I think this is a bigger game for the Dolphins because you got to go out there and you got to prove to people, hey, we could beat a good team. I still think they are a good team just because they have, I know that people could look at them as and call them frauds, but I don't want to I don't look at them as a fraud. But I do get it. But you got to look at the star power on this team. They're dealing with injuries right now. You get Achane back in the backfield to go along with Mostert. He's going to be back, I think, after the bye week. And then, of course, you have Tyreek Hill, who's, everybody talks about him being the best receiver in the league, at least for this year. He's been unbelievable. And then you got Jalen Waddle, who's a solid number 2. And, some other guys as well, Cedric Wilson and Chosen Anderson, right? Is it Robbie Chosen? No, Robbie Chosen, I think it is now. They got a lot of track stars on this team. Now, obviously, Robbie Chosen isn't, an elite wide receiver, but I'm just saying in terms of speed, you got those guys, Mostert, Achane, when he comes back. There's speed everywhere on this offense. They got playmakers everywhere, and I think it's been very beneficial for Tua, and Tua gets the ball to these guys, and Tua gives the team the best chance to win out of the quarterbacks. Skylar Thompson, I think he's still on the team, right? Because I know, again, there's still Tua criticism out there as well, and I get it. I don't view Tua as an elite quarterback. I think he's kind of in that second, third tier of quarterbacks, but you got to surround these guys with talent, and that's exactly what the Dolphins did. And thankfully he's been healthy this year. Because, last year concussions were an issue. And, thankfully, like I just said, that hasn't been a problem. But you know what? He gets the ball where it needs to be. And right now the Dolphins are 6-2. And this is a big game for them. I think this is bigger for them than the Chiefs. Because I know the Chiefs are going to be okay. I know that they're struggling on offense right now. They didn't go out and add another wide receiver. So what they have moving forward is what they're going to have. But I think, when the money's on the table, when all the chips are on the table, they're going to show up. They are. Because, we could talk about their struggles on offense, but I just feel in general, that was just a team loss. You can't really blame that on one guy. Guys are fumbling. They were getting things going on offense. It's just they couldn't cash in. Something would happen. You got Sky Moore dropping a touchdown. I feel ultimately the Chiefs are going to figure it out. I'm not worried about them. I'm not. But yeah, there's definitely. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't some concern there. There definitely is, but I don't think it's you want to jump to any conclusions and write them off. But, listen, it's hard to repeat in the NFL. I'm not sitting here saying they're going to repeat as Super Bowl champs, but I think they're going to be, when it's all said and done, they're going to be one of the final 4 teams, I think. But I think for the Dolphins, you win this game, then that at least gets a monkey off your back. And people could say, all right, well, you beat a good team. You beat a good team. And, last year, listen, they went on the road against the Ravens. They were getting blown out. Nobody really gave them a chance for that game. And I think Tua threw 6 touchdown passes in that game. They came back and won that game. So it's not like they haven't gone on the road and beaten a good team. Ever. But you would like to see, and they did, even last year, late in the year against Buffalo in Buffalo. I mean, that was when it was cold in Buffalo. This year was, we were in we were in late September, beginning of October weather, and they got blown out. But in the snow against Buffalo, I mean, they could have won that game. So, but again, obviously that was last year. We're talking about this year now. But listen, they almost beat Buffalo in the playoff game with Skylar Thompson at quarterback. So like, I think like, yeah, the Dolphins haven't beaten, one of these elite teams, but you know what? Let's see what they do on Sunday. I think it's a bigger game for them. And listen, Tyreek Hill, I think, should have a good game. I think he's going to want to, stick it to his former team. He actually did talk about, the contract issues with the Chiefs, and, he went over the situation. And, it came down to, either the Jets or the Dolphins. Just imagine if he went to the Jets. Because, I have a lot of friends that are Jet fans. They would have been, like, I don't even know. They just, like, they would have been so happy if that was the case. But Dolphins swooped in, and they were able to get him. So, and listen, I think the Chiefs definitely missed Tyreek Hill, but you know what? They got their ring without him last year. So, yeah, they miss him, but they were able to, win a championship without him. So it's, if they could do that, they'll figure it out. Because they have most of the guys from last year's team. I mean, the only subtraction really is Juju Smith-Schuster. That's it. Unless I'm missing somebody else. But yeah, like Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Valdez-Scantling, Justin Watson. Those guys were all on the team last year. McCole Hardman. I don't remember. Did he play in the Super Bowl? Because he was injured. Maybe he didn't. Because he didn't do anything in the Super Bowl. So maybe he did miss the Super Bowl. But he was on the 2019 team. I know that. I mean, listen, there's some concern with the Chiefs, but I think they'll be fine. The Dolphins, it's a statement game for you. It is. And speaking of statement games, when we go into our next segment, after we come back from our second break, we'll talk about it being a statement game for the Dallas Cowboys, depending on what they do on Sunday. But before we go to break, I just want to remind you guys again to become part of the show, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show. It makes it more interactive. It's a great way to get yourself, out there with your comment, whatever you have for me. I greatly appreciate it. And that's really what I look forward to, is interacting with you guys, the viewers, and responding to your comments, you guys telling me things. Because obviously, for me, I'm not going to say I'm going to sit up here and say I know everything, and I don't. And there might be some things, some insight that you guys could give me from a different perspective that I might, not realize. And that's what it's all about. So, make sure to do that. Again, it's on the ticker below, streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. So, yeah, with that, we are going to take our second break of the show. And then when we come back, we are going to talk about the Cowboys-Eagles game and why it's a statement game for the Cowboys. So, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are going to talk about the Cowboys-Eagles game and why this is a statement game for the Cowboys. So, obviously, earlier this year, the Cowboys went to San Francisco, a team that knocked them out in the playoffs. And that was a 19-12 game, I believe the final score was of that. Low scoring. They ended up losing 42-10. Right, that was the score. Earlier this year against the 49ers. Now, the 49ers have been a different team since then. They've lost 3 in a row. And the Cowboys, listen, they're 5-2 right now. Technically, they have a better record than the Niners. Technically, 5-2, 5-3. Obviously, that's going to change, I think, at some point. But technically, they're ahead of the 49ers in the standings now. But now they're going to be playing their division rival, the Philadelphia Eagles, in Philly on Sunday. That'll be one of the late afternoon games, and we will preview that tomorrow. But for this segment, I just want to talk about like the level of importance of this game. Because, listen, if the Cowboys go into Philly tomorrow, or they go into Philly on Sunday, and they could somehow beat the Eagles, I think that puts the rest of the NFL on notice. I really do think it does. Because that's something that they have struggled to do the last couple of seasons. You go back to 2019 when that was for the division. Eagles won that game. 2020, I think. The Eagles won. Well, the Eagles won that game. That was when Ben DiNucci was the quarterback. Actually, now that I think about it, 2021, Eagles were a wild card team. I know they played each other on like a Monday night. No, it wasn't a Monday night. It was a Saturday, I think. And the Cowboys dominated that game, but the Eagles didn't really play their starters. Last year, they lost with Cooper Rush at quarterback. So now you got Dak Prescott. Yeah, so DiNucci. DiNucci was 2020. Then you had their backups playing in 21. Last year, Cooper Rush was playing. So you're going to have, basically, for the whole game, for the full 4 quarters, you're going to have Jalen Hurts against Dak Prescott. And this is probably the biggest game in Philly that Dak will be playing since 2019, basically, because he's dealt with injuries, and the Cowboys, they blew Philadelphia out on that Saturday night a couple of years ago, but they pretty much had all their playoff spots locked up because they put in their backups then at that point. So this is a big game. And if the Cowboys want to prove to everybody that they're legit, got to win this game. Have to. Now, for me, look, I'm a Giant fan. And I don't want to sound like I'm being biased here, but I got to see it to believe it. Because for me, as of right now, I think the Eagles win this game. Cowboys got to prove it. Because, you stomp all over the Rams, the Patriots, the Jets, the Giants. Okay. But you go up against the 49ers, and then you get stomped on. Now you're going up against Philly, who's got the best record in the NFL now. Niners had it at the time when you played them. So, let's see. Because if you lose this game, look, this is like one of your last. This is your last chance. Well, shouldn't say it's your last chance, but at least it's another chance that's given to you to go out there and show that, yeah, we could play with the best of the best in the NFC. But I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. Now, the Eagles have some question marks in their secondary, of course. Their secondary hasn't been as good as, it's not as good as it was last year. I mean, look at what Sam Howell just did to them. Now, they're getting Kevin Byard over from the Titans, of course, which definitely helps. But actually, did he play? I forget when the trade was made. Let's go back to Sunday. Hold on. Let's see. Eagles and Commanders. Did he play on Sunday? Oh, he did play on Sunday. All right, so he had 4 tackles. Yeah, so that was with Kevin Byard. And Sam Howell threw for, how many yards did he throw for? 397 yards, 4 touchdowns. So that was with Kevin Byard back there. But yeah, I mean, it should help the secondary. I mean, Sam Howell, for some reason, has just been unbelievable against the Eagles. We'll see what he does this week against the Patriots. But yeah, he's been really good against the Eagles. So the Eagles, yeah, their secondary has been a little suspect this year. Got to take advantage of that. And what the Cowboys did on Sunday, which is exactly what they have to keep doing, is get the ball to CeeDee Lamb. That's what you got to do. That is what you have to do to be successful in this game. And also, the quarterback cannot turn the ball over. Cannot happen. Because if you do that, you got no shot in this game. And again, that's been a problem. And I mentioned it on a previous show. You know, Dak, his first few years in the NFL, really did not turn the ball over that much. Then all of a sudden, when he became the guy, when it became his team, because a lot of people would argue that it was Zeke's team, he turned the ball over more. So, that's another thing. Cowboys cannot turn the ball over in this game. Now, you'd like to see them run the football better. Eagles are very good against the run, so that's going to be a problem. But you would like to see them try to run the ball better. I still think, with what's going on with Tony Pollard, I think he's still trying to work his way back from the injury that he had late in the season last year. So, because he had a great regular season last year. He was explosive. This year, I feel like he hasn't really had like that monster game yet. I don't think he's gonna have it on Sunday because, like I said, the Eagles are good against the run. So if the Cowboys are gonna want to win this game, Dak Prescott is gonna have to, put it all on his back, and lead them to a win offensively. Now on the defensive side of the ball, look, the Cowboys, their defense is good. It's a defense that forces turnovers. There's been a couple of games this year where I'm like, I thought this defense was good. What happened? I mean, the 49ers blew them out. I mean, against the Cardinals, the Cardinals ran the ball all over them in that game. But I think this defense is still a solid unit. And, last year in Philly, I think the final score was like 26-17, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, they came back in that game. They made that game interesting. And again, that was with Cooper Rush at quarterback. Then at home, Gardner Minshew had a great game. I mean, they had like a lot of turnovers in that game, the defense, but they gave up a lot of points. Dak Prescott had a good game there against the Eagles. That was on Christmas Eve. So, yeah, this is a big game. This is a big game, and I think it's definitely going to be close. But I'm not going to sit here and say, the Cowboys are going to win. I don't feel confident in saying that. But I will say, if they win this game, that's definitely going to put the NFL on notice. I think it should. Right now you're 2 games back of the Eagles in the division. This is a huge game. Huge game. But if you go in there and Dak Prescott turns the ball over and Cowboys lose another game like they did, I don't think they're getting blown out 42-10 like they did against the Niners, but if this is a game you go in there, you offensively you struggle to move the ball and you lose by a couple of scores, you're going to be in the same spot you're in right now. Now, I still would look at them as a top 5 team in the NFC. But it's kind of not saying that much, though. Because you look at all the teams in the South, I think they're better than them. All the teams outside of the Lions in the North, than the other two teams in the NFC East. Some of the teams in the NFC West. Right now, you're in the same category as the Seahawks, I think. I like I said, going over the power rankings. Not going to put them over the Lions. With the 49ers struggling, I'm still putting the Niners over them. And then you got the Eagles, who were actually ranked as the top team. So, this is a statement game. This is a statement game. And, listen, I give them a shot to win. Personally, for me, I don't think it's going to happen. Because we've seen this movie on repeat with them. And I just feel like this could be another week of that. But like this week has shown us, nothing would surprise me. Nothing. Because the NFL is a week-to-week thing. Especially this year, with how teams dominate one week, then the following week they get destroyed. You can't. We'll see. We'll see what happens. You can't. You gotta. You gotta manage your expectations sometimes. Because every team is beatable. The Eagles, like Jalen Hurts, he had that 3-interception game against the Jets a few weeks ago. Not saying that's going to happen here, but he had a bad game. So anything is possible. But the way he's been playing, and A.J. Brown, how he's been on a tear these last several weeks. And the Eagles are running the football. DeAndre Swift has been playing well for them. It's going to be a tough game in Philly. Hostile crowd. Yeah, it's going to be a tough game. The odds are stacked against the Cowboys in this game. Excuse me. The odds are stacked against the Cowboys in this game. But they definitely have a shot to win this game. It's not like I don't give them a chance, but I don't give them a good chance to win. Just because of the track record. Like I said, this is probably the biggest game that they have played in Philly since 2019 when they were playing for the division, when Carson Wentz was the quarterback. I think so. And you finally got both quarterbacks playing against each other. Because it's just funny how last year one of them was injured. Because I think Dak had like the thumb injury, and then I forget what Hurts' injury. Oh, I think Hurts. I think it was it the shoulder? I think he was dealing with the shoulder injury. Correct me if I'm wrong, but regardless, both those guys missed at least one game. This time, both guys will be playing. So it should be an exciting game. Like there are some really good games this weekend, and we went over two of them. Obviously, you got the Sunday night game as well between the Bengals and the Bills, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Because the last couple of weeks we've kind of had, the slate hasn't been the best, and this week the slate's pretty good. So, we'll see how it goes for the Cowboys. Like I said, this is a statement game for them. If they go out there and win, that puts more respect on their name, at least for the moment. But yeah, so with that, we are going to take our final break of the show, and then when we come back, we are going to preview tonight's game, the first game of Week 9 between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Tennessee Titans. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are going to now preview tonight's game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Tennessee Titans. So that'll get us started for Week 9. And obviously, you got two young quarterbacks going at it. You got Will Levis, who made his debut and his impressive debut last week against the Falcons. We talked about it earlier. 4 touchdown passes in that game, 3 to DeAndre Hopkins. And then you got, on the other side, Kenny Pickett will be starting tonight. Left last week's game. We talked about it at the top of the beginning of the show with the rib injury. But he will be playing tonight. Obviously, the Steelers and the Titans are, a game apart from each other. Steelers are 4-3. Titans are 3-4. The Titans, they traded their, safety Kevin Byard. And that was really it. They didn't trade Derrick Henry. So, I mean, the Titans are still technically in it, but I don't really look at them as a team that is going to make the playoffs this year. But we'll see. I mean, Will Levis provided a spark, so maybe, they surprise some people here in the second half. So we look at the offensive rankings for these two teams, and it's not very good. Right now, the over-under for this game is 37.5. I think you might want to take the under. Even though the under is right now, it opened at 36.5. Now it's 37. We'll see. For all the betting people out there, it's going to be a low-scoring game. I mean, this game might be like a 17-13 game or something like that. When you look at the stats and compare them to the two teams. So passing yards, the Titans are 27th, Steelers are 25th. Rushing yards, the Titans are 13th, Steelers are 28th. So there's a little bit of an edge there for the Titans. And then in terms of points per game, Titans are 22nd, Steelers are 29th. Then on the defensive side of the ball, passing yards, Steelers are ranked 24th, Titans defense is ranked 22nd, so they're around the same. Rushing yards, Titans are 16th against the run. The Steelers are 27th. So you kind of like the Titans running the football in this game, especially with Derrick Henry, of course. And then points allowed, Titans are 13th, and the Steelers are 18th. So you kind of look at that, and you're like, yeah, I might want to take the under in this game. Obviously, the Steelers are coming off of a loss against the Jags. The Titans did win on Sunday. So for me personally, I feel like everybody's going to ride the Titans now. And I think because of that, I'd probably side with the Steelers. But, them not being good against the run does concern me, especially because you had Derrick Henry coming to town. And the Steelers' offense is just a tough watch. And I'll definitely be, paying close attention to the game tonight. So we'll see. I haven't really watched that many. Well, let's see. How many? Well, I was able to watch them when they were on Monday night earlier against the Browns and Sunday night against the Raiders. I'm trying to think. Did they have any other games that I? Well, yeah, I did. When I was in Massachusetts for a wedding. Before the wedding, we were watching some of the game when they were playing the 49ers when they got blown out. So yeah, my experiences watching the Steelers, at least with the offense. I mean, they at least beat the Browns and the Raiders, but the offense has been a little, not a little, but has been very frustrating to watch. And the Fire Matt Canada chants are still going. It hasn't been good for the Steelers offensively. But hey, they're 4-3. I mean, they won that big game a couple weeks ago against the Rams that nobody really thought they would win. They beat the Ravens before the bye week. So I mean, we'll see. But it's a home game. So we'll just have to wait and see how it goes tonight. I think the Steelers win tonight. Because I feel like, again, this is going to be a game where, like, everyone's going to be like, the Titans, they played really well last week, Steelers didn't. Because I feel like that's what the Steelers do. Like, they'll come off a loss, and then people won't give them a chance, and then they'll win. And they're at home, too. and it's against a rookie quarterback. Now, obviously, you got Derrick Henry, so the Titans could definitely lean on Derrick Henry tonight. Actually, we'll look at the injury report as well. Let's see, because they had the injuries. So Minkah Fitzpatrick, he's out. He's expected to return the following week, so that's good. Pat Freiermuth is on injured reserve. His expected return is week 11. So that's at least for the Steelers. They're big players. Titans got a couple of guys dealing with injuries. Actually, DeAndre Hopkins, he did not practice on Wednesday. He's questionable for this week against the Steelers, but I'm assuming he's going to play. And obviously Tannehill, he was ruled out. But, we'll see. The Titans will be without one of their tackles. He's going to be out this week with a concussion, Chris Hubbard. So, I think it's going to be a low-scoring defensive battle. That's really what it's going to be. And listen, I give the Titans the edge in running the football because, you take Derrick Henry right now over, what the Steelers have, and no disrespect to Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris, but Najee Harris hasn't looked that good this year. They scored a couple of times a few weeks ago. Well, both of them scored against the Rams a couple weeks ago. But, it was an ugly game against Jacksonville. I think some of it had to do with the weather. And Jacksonville's defense has been playing a lot better. Now, I don't feel confident in taking the Steelers tonight because I could definitely see the Titans winning. They lean on Derrick Henry. They play good defense. They could definitely win this game. And you know what? If Will Levis can go into Pittsburgh and play well, that would be huge. And, if Will Levis plays well tonight, then, how could you go back to Tannehill? And he showed you something against a good defense last week at home against the Falcons. Now he's going into a hostile environment in Pittsburgh. He goes out there and plays well. What's the conversation that needs to be? What conversation is there then? That should be the end of the conversation. They should not go back to Tannehill. And Tannehill, he should be looking for a new team then next year. But you don't want to jump. You don't want to, get ahead of it. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves now. It was just one game, but listen, threw 3 touchdowns to DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins had his best game of the year. What more is there to say? So. We'll just have to see. Listen, the Thursday night games haven't been the best this year, and this is probably going to be one of those games. But hey, it's football. I'm gonna tune in and watch it. But this will definitely be a close game, I think. And you got the Steelers coming off of a loss. The Minkah Fitzpatrick injury is definitely huge. So the Titans could take advantage of that. But you also got T.J. Watt who could take over a game too. He's had an He's had 2. I think he's had 2 interceptions. One of them was the pick 6 back in. It was either a pick 6 or a fumble recovery. Might have been a fumble. Oh no, I think it was a sack fumble recovery for a touchdown because the Steelers had 2 defensive touchdowns against the Browns. Yeah, the pick 6 was earlier in the game, but that wasn't Watt. I forget who that was. That was. No, because Highsmith. I was going to say Spillane, but he's on the Raiders now. It's going to be an interesting game, obviously. And I'm in the middle of the show. I'm working on a trade negotiation in one of my leagues, so I'm keeping and getting notifications for that. So once I get off here, I will continue with those discussions. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say with the game. Of course, you hope Kenny Pickett plays well tonight, obviously, because last week getting hurt, having to put in Trubisky, that was rough. Trubisky threw 2 picks. George Pickens only had that 1 catch for the touchdown, and that was it. So you got to get him more involved tonight. Now, I think it's supposed to be nice in Pittsburgh tonight. Let me just take a look because I usually so 48 degrees. It's gonna be sunny. Yeah, so it's gonna be clear conditions tonight. So I think George Pickens has a bounce back game here tonight. We'll see how the Steelers run the football. I think that's still going to be a struggle. And I do expect there to be some booing tonight just because of the play calling. And, I mean, it's just crazy that the fire Matt Canada chants, like how that's – I mean, that it's everywhere. It's everywhere. At hockey games, I think it's at other stadiums where the Steelers just aren't, even around. Because I think on the Pat McAfee show, wherever they were doing the show, like there was fire Matt Canada chants, like they're everywhere. So, but the Steelers, they're standing their ground. They're not getting rid of him for whatever reason. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes tonight. Week 9 we're in. So we're moving right along with the season. Holidays are coming up. I mean, it's wild how fast time goes. Also tomorrow, we got the doubleheader tomorrow, so we got the GSMC football podcast. GSMC baseball podcast is also tomorrow. That's been moved up 15 minutes earlier. So instead of 12:45 p.m. Eastern time, it's going to be 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. And actually, we got a World Series champ last night, so we'll actually talk about that briefly. So the Texas Rangers, they won the World Series last night, their first championship in franchise history. They defeated the Diamondbacks in 5 games, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. So make sure to tune into that. I'll go over that. Some other stuff as well that I want to touch upon. But yeah, that's we got the doubleheader tomorrow. So make sure to tune in for both. Really excited for that. And I got the picks tomorrow, of course. We'll recap this game tomorrow. We'll recap it, and then we'll do the picks for all the games. Hopefully have a better week like I did last week. That was good. That was good for my self-esteem, just because the last 2 weeks that I've done my predictions on here, my picks have been awful, at least against the spread. So I want you guys to at least be like, all right, he could at least give some good predictions, because again, I went different last week. I tried something different, took some risks, and they paid off. So although the Ravens, what they did or what they didn't do was cover the spread against the Cardinals in the most insane way, I won't forgive them for that. Unless I win the week in my spread pool because of them. But yeah, that's pretty much it though for today's show. Obviously, like I just said, make sure to tune in tomorrow for both shows. 11 a.m. Eastern time to 12 p.m. Eastern time will be the football podcast, and then a half hour later we will be streaming the GSMC baseball podcast and recapping the World Series and other stuff going on with baseball. Now it's the off season, so it's like, what are we going to talk about? But we'll figure it out. So until then, I'm Kenneth Gruenfelder signing off from the GSMC football podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day. Enjoy the game tonight, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.